personal story, I think. It's an interesting thing to be asked to speak out as to what racism has done to your life, how it's affected your life. And I'll begin by saying I come from Jamaica, the island of Jamaica, somewhere in the West Indies. And it is illegal to be homosexual there. It's against the law. But before we even get to where the law gets involved, there's huge violence against people who are gay. I myself was attacked by 12 boys in a bathroom on campus when I was 23 years old. And that is what made me decide to move to America. Because I thought to myself, because it is illegal to be gay in Jamaica, and I want to be out and gay, and I want to find a place to live a safe life where I can have a partner and raise children, or not, I should find a place where it isn't illegal. So I packed all my bags, I finished my university degree, and I moved to the United States. And it's very, very, very strange. Because I don't think that I was particularly political before I crossed the border. So I picked up my body and I said, I'm going to go to America where I can find a place where I can be gay and safe and free. And when I landed in America, I was very surprised to discover this thing called racism. And as I worked harder to become more involved with gay life, so going to clubs and going to meetings where women were talking about being gay, I discovered that within this tiny community that was fighting for its very existence in terms of LGBT rights, that there was this monster, this secret, unspoken monster called racism. And I didn't quite know how to feel because I had decided before I got there that these were going to be my people. That this group of people, this LGBT, this gay, lesbian, transgender, questioning, these people, bisexual people, would be the people where I could finally go and be myself and be free. And you just met the racism. And I think it is the racism, how terrible it is, how it wears on the bodies of people who are not white. And how it dehumanizes people who are white. It is that journey that has forced me to become an activist, to use my life to speak out against inequalities. It's hanging out with these different groups of people. Because I think if I had gone to a country where it was okay to be gay and black and all the parts of me, I don't know if I would have become an activist. I don't know if I would have thought it necessary. But it is the meeting of the problem of race that I thought to myself, there's stuff to fight for. There is a war going on and I want to be involved in it. And so I become this activist who moves from place to place. And one of the most interesting things is crossing borders. I have a Jamaican passport. I haven't quite decided to get an American passport yet, for reasons, well, that's another trial. But I decided that I'm holding on to my Jamaican passport, and every time I have to cross a border, my partner is African American, which is in its own way interesting to be black and American at the same time. But there's a way that her passport, her American passport, her passport from this country that is considered largely white and powerful. She kind of walks across borders easily. And we're traveling together, and I'm almost always stopped and questioned and questioned and questioned at the border. A couple of weeks ago, we came to Copenhagen in August, and we were leaving to go back home to the United States. And there's a way that we just both were traveling and had both passports and the papers, and everybody's traveling together. And for some reason, she had my passport and I had hers. And we walked right up to the counter, and I didn't think, they're both tiny blue passports, the same size. So I'm just digging in my bag, I take the blue book out, I hand it to the immigration officer in Copenhagen. And he waves me through and stamps me. And I'm standing there waiting for her to come for me, just waiting and waiting. What's going on? What's happening? So I'm looking, because I'm beyond the wall, and I'm looking out and I'm saying to her, what's happening? And she says, I don't know. And he's asking her all these questions. I can't hear what he's asking her, but I can see that her line is not moving because she's standing there and all the other lines are moving. And I'm like, this is strange, what's happening? And then he calls her and he, says to her, where is your green card? Which is the piece of the card that allows you to enter the US. And she says, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? I don't need one, I'm an American. And he says, you're not an American. And then she calls me and she's like, what? And next thing you know, I see her calling me like, come here, come here. So I go back and it seems that we've switched the passports. And he's like, oh. Because he just realized that two people traveling together, we both came in at the same time. And the only thing that he's looking at is his passport, and we both have, permission to enter each country. And he just realized that he just gave her a hard time, and she was an American, and he was very sorry about it. And then he wanted to ask me a few questions again afterwards, but it kind of always is that way as soon as I cross borders, and I think it makes me feel small and unimportant. And I cross borders all the time. I travel all the time. I have to go down to the embassies and get permission to enter each country. I came in today from New York, and I leave in the morning. And I had to pay about 90 euros for a visa to enter the Schengen. And I went down and I applied for the visa, and my passport has it in it, where they've given me 2 days, because I'm flying back tomorrow, but my ticket says I'm in today, I'm out tomorrow. But they didn't even say, let me give her 2 more days in case there's a flight or something. And it really is because of where you're from, because my American counterparts just breeze right through. And I can't imagine what it's like for, say, people from countries that are considered Muslim now, in the post-9/11 era in which we live. I just think, I think we do a lot of studying about what racism does to us, people of color. So there's always a way I feel like I'm either the witness or I'm on trial. Like I always have to be proving something about racism. And I often don't hear people who are white, people who hold the privilege, people who hold the structure upright, talking about how racism affects their life, how it dehumanizes them, how it makes, and I'm not talking about the dehumanization about like, oh, I'm not privileged, or I don't get to go into this club or whatever. I'm talking about how it chips away at the human fabric of you, how it renders you unable to see this whole group of people. The person before me was talking about the taxi drivers. As a person of color, as a black person who, when I went to America, I didn't have the chance to immediately just find a job with all my papers because, I was an immigrant from a black country. Like I immediately sit in taxis and I say to the gentleman, what's your name? Where are you from? What, did you always drive a taxi? There's a way that he cannot be invisible to me because I'm him when I cross another border, when I'm in a different country. So there's a way that I feel like it is my responsibility to interact with him as a human being. Whereas I find that a lot of my white friends, even my white political, progressive, staunch activist friends, they don't even see where this man, you might talk to him, and because of his accent or because of the color of his skin or because he's from a different place, you might not even know that he used to run the math department or the physics department when Iraq had a university 10, 15 years ago. So I think that the institution of racism has to be looked at. It has to be deconstructed, it has to be pulled apart, and we all have to talk about how it affects us. Because as long as it's one minority group talking about how it makes us sad and it makes us unhappy and it causes us to be, inhuman in some way, then I don't think that it will change. And I just want to make one more point before I end. I want to talk about these countries that project a very progressive global image and how it is that they pretend as if they don't aid and abet racism in their own countries. So you hear them talking about how women are treated in Iraq. You hear people talking about how, homophobia in Jamaica. You hear people talk, and so places like Sweden are presented as if they are these countries without the problem of racism, as if it doesn't exist here. And it's the same way other problems like rape, like sexism, like homophobia, those things are not admitted to because there's a way that the image of the country is constructed in a large framework that deems it more progressed, more liberal, more, more full of conscience than other places. And it makes it difficult to point at it, to touch it, because it is silent. Because it is this unspoken, hidden, nobody talks about it, and you add that to a culture that doesn't speak very much. And it becomes this very insidious thing that you have a bunch of people in a place called Uppsala sitting down in a room discussing an idea where most of the country thinks it's irrelevant or it's not happening here. I sat on a plane with a gentleman who, when I said, we're talking about Obama, President Obama winning and how it has made the right wing and the racist groups kind of flare up in America. And he says, my God, that's still happening there? Oh, America's so backward. And it's a good thing we had 6 hours on the flight because I had to tell him otherwise. And he had to watch me go through customs and wait. And the immigration officer is asking me, how long are you here for? And I said, would you please check the visa? It's all there. It's all there. I can't get it. Did you get a visa? What the fuck? Do you think I just came in without, I'm like the only Jamaican who can just wave past your borders and just walk in without a visa? Look in the passport, but there's a way that it is important for him to humiliate me, to kind of perpetuate this dehumanization of a whole group of people. It has to happen every day, little by little by little, so that it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Every chance it gets, it wants to beat it into you and nail the hammer in, and it has to do all of that. And this is how it works. Your silence makes you complicit. Your silence makes you guilty. Your silence makes it so that you are holding up a Hitler banner, you are like killing black people, you are raping a child. This is what silence is. Silence means that you are condoning, that you are in agreement with what is happening. If you don't learn to speak out against it, then you are a part of the problem. You're definitely a part of the problem. And the only way we can kind of deconstruct this is if everybody starts talking about how the emperor has no clothes on. If everybody's sitting around going, yes, I mean, you know, there are problems, but you can't really do anything about it. You have to start, and you have to start by understanding how it is that each of these things, each of these isms, each of these ways of pressing down on people, they're all the same thing. Homophobia is racism, is sexism, is, you know, all those isms pressed together. How they're the same thing. They are the very, very same thing. And until we realize that, until we stop in rooms like this one being concerned about like gay rights more so than we are concerned about racism, more so than we are concerned about trafficking, more so than we are concerned about the rights of the people who live in a country and pay taxes. Until you realize that all oppression is connected, then this problem is not going away, and we'll be here 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 19 years from now, 200 years from now, talking about how it is that we can talk about the thing that we should get up and do something about it.